Looking to learn life lessons without going through the experience? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Hidden Struggles with your host, Lady C.
Hey, this is Lady C coming at you with another episode of Hidden Struggles. Today in my studio is Phylice from Totally Awake. I am so excited to have her here chatting it up with me today, talking about some YouTube channels and journeys that both of us are taking out here. So I want to welcome Phylice.
Hey, how y'all doing? It's Phylice, totally awake.
All right, Phylice.
Thank you for
Phylice in the
having me.
house. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so we know that, Phylice has been out here for a minute. I think you just celebrated your 4th year anniversary on YouTube.
Yes,
And I do
3 years.
know that your very first video yielded over 200,000 views. Way to go.
Thank
And
you.
you've been out here just working the airwaves, and I'm so excited to start talking about your journey and what made you decide to come out on the airwaves to share your experience with the world. You want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about what got you interested in doing that?
Well, I was born in the religion, third generation, and I found out about all of the lies and the corruption. I found out about the CSA policy where they have a two witness rule that is protecting criminals. So that was a part of my big awakening, and also my daughter and her having to take several blood transfusions. All of those things were a part of my awakening, and I started to just really want to talk about it with other people and help them to wake up, just the same way that I was able to listen to a lot of YouTube videos, and it was able to help me wake up, those videos, and help me on my journey with healing. So I wanted to, be a voice, and be a part of the community and my activism, and just help people wake up.
Yeah, and you know what? I can really see how very helpful you are because, looking at your channel and seeing all the people that you're interacting with, the people that's commenting on your videos, it really shows that you have made a definite impact out here in the community, which is very
Thank
helpful
you.
because the more people that join their voices really make it nice for people that can align themselves with your experiences.
Definitely.
So what are some of the challenges that you find yourself facing after leaving? Because I know you are being shunned by your family, which most people who are in that situation have a hard time dealing with that. But you want to talk a little bit about how you're coping with these challenges?
Yes, it's definitely a challenge for, for me not to have my parents, you know, they gave birth to me, they brought me into the world. So of course I want them in my life. But I am thankful to have my own little family. I have my husband and our 3 children. And just spending time with them and being grateful for the relationships that I have with them helps me to cope. And also my channel, making YouTube's videos when I can is definitely therapeutic, and just knowing that I'm helping other people to wake up and heal. That keeps me busy and coping.
I totally understand what you're saying because when you're out here and you've been cut off from your family, it's like now you have to find other people to replace that family with. And
Right.
how has that been working out for you in terms of being in the ex-witness community? What is it like meeting new people? You want to share any experiences about any friendships that you've made throughout the community?
It's been really awesome. My comments, I love my comments, and I feel like I've really built a personal relationship with my viewers. I remember many of them when they comment multiple times on multiple videos. Many of them have been with me, since the beginning or close to the beginning. So I'm remembering their comments, and I feel like we have our own personal relationship. I'm excited to see them, continuously comment. So that's one thing. And then, I do, like we can email each other and have these type of collaborations. So I'm excited about that as well. It's a few people that I have built those type of relationships with, where we can just kind of talk and Just help each other get through this XJW thing because it's a struggle. And I'm
Yeah.
also thankful to have, I have my friends that I know personally and a couple of family members that I know personally that's in my circle that just helps me get through as well.
Yeah, and you know what? When you talk, because I know you were born in, and when you're born in, depending on what kind of parents you have and whether or not they allow you to have friends outside of the organization, did you make friends in school despite being a witness, or did you have to wait until after leaving? How did
Yes.
you handle all that?
I definitely made friends while I was in school. I made really good friends, and some of them where I still have as friends today. Um, and then I made some friends along the way as becoming an adult as well that I've been able to hold on to as well. So um, I'm thankful for that. And then I have a few friends, you know, um, that I've known in the religion that I was able to help wake up. Put a little bug in their ear. They already had their doubts, but I was able to help water that seed and help them become totally awake and realize that Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult.
Well, that's really good that you were able to do that, because I think that is the goal of so many of us when we leave, that we would just hope that one of our good friends would leave with us. And that's how I
Mhm.
was. I mean, I wanted people that had shared my same experience, that I knew when I was a Jehovah's Witness, to leave with me. And that just didn't happen. You
Yeah.
know? So I think it's really good that that was able to happen for you. Now,
Oh,
are
yeah.
you all still in contact with each other? How's your
No,
friendship now?
I'm still in contact. I'm still in contact with, pretty much everyone that I've been able to help in some way. I have a friend from 7th grade. It was kind of cool how we met each other, by learning that we were both Jehovah's Witnesses. So, she just came to visit me a couple of weekends ago and we just kind of hung out and talked about stuff and we watched that movie. It's called man, what is it called? Confessions of a Jesus Jerk or something like that. Yeah, okay, that's pretty funny, but that's a whole nother conversation. But it was touching too because, of course, it was just so real, like it was ridiculous. Some of the scenes in there where I just have to say this. It was one of the scenes where a lady was calling from the hall, or a brother was calling from the hall, just basically saying that he had sinned with his wife in the bedroom. So we're like talking about how crazy that was. But yeah, I'm excited that I have those friends that I can just relate to and talk about old times with. And it was sad we couldn't just like go see my parents. My parents don't even know that we're in contact the way we are because, of course, I would have to tell them that, well, she saw my video online and that's how we got back in contact with each other because we hadn't talked in years. And my video, they got over 200,000 views. The first one that I uploaded, that's how she found me. So it
Oh,
was
that's
really fun.
excellent.
And
Did
yeah,
when she found your video online, was she already looking at ex-witness content?
she wasn't. She wasn't. But this particular friend had never been baptized, but her dad is an elder and everything like that. Um, but she had never been baptized, and she had married somebody that wasn't in the religion at all, and she had started to kind of go to church, but of course her conscience was bothering her about that because she was feeling like, well, the truth isn't in the church, and I know what I really need to do. I need to get back to the Kingdom Hall. And I just kind of I think, her and her husband, he was trying to tell her some things that was wrong with the organization because I think that she was, kind of set on thinking that this was the truth, even though, like I said, she was going to church. But he kind of was putting a bug in the ear. But I think when she seen me, somebody that she knew and had kind of grew up with and stuff, and just hearing me tell my story, it really helped her kind of to, let her guards down a little bit more. Because you know how they put that fear in you about listening to apostates, but she knew me that I'm just Phylice. So she was able to, a little bit more comfortably listen to me, and then she was able to kind of listen to other stuff, and you know, she just kind of went from there and formed her own beliefs and everything like that. But she definitely is awake, and yeah.
I like what you're saying about what happened to your friend, because you stated the magic words. She was not baptized,
Hmm.
which means absolutely nothing. Because when a person has been indoctrinated by this religion, you see how she had married someone who wasn't a witness, but that indoctrinating the indoctrination of this is the truth, don't go to church.
Hmm.
Even though she married out of the organization,
Hmm.
she still was holding on to some of these teachings.
Right. And it was
And
interfering with her marriage as well. And
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely interfering with that marriage because was she do you know whether or not she was celebrating the holidays or not?
I don't think she was big on the holidays or anything. I'm not for sure though. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, because see, the thing about it is this: even though she wasn't baptized, she married out of the organization. Then, if she was still trying to align herself with the religion, then, like you said, her marriage was getting ready to go, down the tubes. Because
Right.
this man is not going to sit here and deal with her, and she's not a baptized witness, and he's probably thinking, "Wait a minute, you're not even a member of this church." But you're
Hmm.
holding all of the values of it, because people just don't
Right.
understand Jehovah's Witnesses and all the stuff that goes along with these beliefs. But it is so true. And I think that your activism helped her out, like you said,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
I'm
what
so
about your other
thankful for
friend?
that. Yeah, I got like two friends that was never baptized, and then I got like a couple of friends or family members that was baptized. So they've kind of just faded away. They don't believe it anymore. They know it's a cult. And all of them, I've really been able to help see that it's a cult. Even one of them, when I first started telling her stuff, she was like, "Yeah, but it's still the right religion." Even like I was saying, "Yeah, it's still the right religion," and I was telling her, "No, it's a cult," and she's like, "Well, I don't know about all of that." But she later on seen that it is a cult. And she later on seen all the corruption, just them and how culty they talk about going to college. And the most recent videos y'all live stream that you did, you and JT, that was so awesome. Like just bringing that whole thing out about the college, like that's so culty. Just that alone, that they would encourage people not to go to college, make it seem like it's something bad to go to college. The CSA issue, of course, everybody is going to be disgusted with that. And it's just so many things. The blood doctrine. This generation will not pass. That's a whole lie. That a lot of people can relate to and feel like, man, I really lived through this time of them saying that this generation will not pass away. And here it is, 2023, and those people would be, well over 100 years old if that was true.
Right. As they say, they're just moving the goalpost back. Right. And
That's
it's almost
right.
like I personally feel like they are doing everything they can to survive. The challenge that the Jehovah's Witnesses are having is the internet
Right. Oh
and
yeah.
the online activists like you and I
So
and
much
people
information.
online surfing online. And so they've got to find a way to keep these people under their belt under control. The less the education you get, the more chances you are to stay under their thumb, you
Right.
know? I understand that when you were starting to fade from the organization, you were about 18 years old, and I know you're married and your husband is not a witness. So you want to tell the audience how you and your husband met?
Well, we met when he was still in the military. He's a veteran now, but he was stationed. He's from Chicago, but he was stationed in Colorado Springs, and I went there to visit a cousin that wasn't a witness, and I met him. She was dating one of his friends, and I met him, and we kind of been inseparable ever since then. But yeah, it was. The Jehovah's Witnesses think that the military and the government and all of that is a part of the wild beast, right? So they're going to be the first ones to die. They're part of Babylon the Great. That's what it is. So my parents actually, and I said this in my video, my first video, they encouraged me to marry him because they didn't want me to sin with my boyfriend. So they thought it'd be better if I just got married. Um, But then when I would tell my mom, like, well, I want to get a job, on the military post, she would be like, no, no, don't, please don't do it, because they think that even getting a job as at like the commissary or anywhere on post is, it's going to get me killed. So it was just crazy.
Okay, so this is interesting because I was actually born on a military base. My father was in the military when I was born.
Hmm.
He was right before I was born. He was in the Air Force, and so I went to school, on military bases all my life. So this was my whole entire life was all encapsulated in this arena, right? And it's amazing how growing up as a witness and also having a father who was supposedly part of the mark of the beast, and I never ever thought that he was going to be destroyed at Armageddon. I never thought that at all. So it's
Yeah.
almost like I was in
You have
this
more faith in God.
religion, had a father, but never looked at him as a person that was going to be destroyed because he was in the armed forces. Just never penetrated my skull.
It doesn't
Never.
make any sense.
It
I
doesn't,
mean, to
you
their
know.
logic, it does makes perfect sense to them, but yeah, it doesn't make any
That
sense.
is so crazy. And it's like you're right there. I'm like not just I'm not like in a front row seat. I'm like on the stage with all this,
Hmm.
And I'm not and my
Hmm.
mom, she's going to meetings. My dad is supporting our whole Jehovah's Witness arrangement because my mom doesn't work a job and so she needs to get the car, the gas to get to the meeting out in field service. And all of this is being sponsored by a man who works for the
Right.
mark of the beast, right?
Exactly.
Which is so
Exactly.
crazy. But,
Yeah.
getting back to your situation, so now you go to Colorado to, visit a relative, a cousin, you
Mhm.
meet your husband. So do you stay out there with your cousin, or do you move back to, Florida?
Yeah, actually, I stayed out there for a little while, and then I came home. Then I went back out there. So I only visited him actually a few times before we got married. We were only dating long distance for about 6 months, and then we got married. But we've been married almost 13 years this November. So yeah, crazy love story. But 13 years later, with 3 kids, here we are. I was definitely still indoctrinated when I met my husband, and he actually played a big part in my awakening as well. Just kind of letting me know that things wasn't right. A lot of things that was happening. Like I talk about in my first video, them not letting him in the back room when I decided to confess to the elders. Which that whole thing was just crazy. I was confessing about a previous relationship, but because I wanted to get back in the congregation in good grace, I had to tell them, well, yeah, that happened in my previous relationship, but now I'm married, which that shouldn't have even been the thing. I shouldn't have had to say anything to them. And, that's what my husband was telling me, but he wanted to come with me. And they were saying that wouldn't be possible.
So you're saying that you had a previous relationship and something happened in that relationship that went
Sin.
unreported, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
then you meet your husband, y'all get married, and now you're trying to come clean about a situation that happened previous to even meeting your husband.
Yeah.
And
Because
so
that's what they
now
make.
you're trying to get
Right.
yourself like because you're not
On
disfellowshipped or nothing like that, right?
Right. I'm trying to get myself back on the road to everlasting life though, because in my mind and on my conscience, and the fact that my family knows that I had this ex-boyfriend, and that he would stay the night and stuff like that. So they knew what was going on. And so they felt like, especially because, I was pregnant, me and my husband were pregnant, and I was having a baby shower. So my grandma was really the one telling me that since I hadn't gotten myself right with the elders in the congregation, that she could not attend my baby shower. So, at first I'm like, okay, whatever, grandma. But then I started to think for myself, like, man, well, maybe I really do need to speak to the elders, because if this is going to keep me off the road to everlasting life, if I don't confess this, because they really make you think that you have to confess every single sin in order to cleanse you of the sin, in order to be still on the road to everlasting life. Now, when you tell them, they decide what happens to you, whether they're going to put you on private reproof, which is what happened to me, or whether they are going to disfellowship you or publicly reprove you, which I've had all of those things happen to me. Um, in my tenure of being a Jehovah's Witness. So yeah, that last time though, they put me on private reproof that I confessed, and it was the very last time that I ever went back there because I just felt like that was so unnecessary. And what was even worse is that they wouldn't allow my husband back there. I had nothing that I wanted to share with them that my husband didn't know. So there was no reason that he shouldn't have been allowed. But in their eyes, because he was not a baptized Jehovah's Witness, that's why he wasn't allowed. So they were going against the Bible, saying, the Bible says that we're one, but they were trying to separate us just because he wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. And I wanted him there for support. I was in a room full of men telling them about, my sin. So it was just crazy. But all of that was a part of my awakening because, of course, my husband was like, that's crazy. And then my husband actually started watching Ex-Jehovah's Witness videos first.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm kind of like double click on this one point that you made. So
Okay.
you said that they did not look at you as being one. But what you have to remember is when a sister is married to a unbelieving husband and they have kids, do you know what they call their children?
Um, I forgot. I'm gonna know it when you say it.
They call the children fatherless boys or fatherless children.
Right, because they don't have a spiritual father.
That's right.
Mhm.
And so they didn't recognize your husband as a spiritual head. And so that's why he was not invited to come to the judicial hearing. Now,
Mhm.
I do know that, like, when a man and a woman that's married and that they're in the organization,
Mhm.
if the brother decides that he doesn't want his wife to accompany him in
That's
his
fine.
judicial meeting, he can choose to do that.
Mhm.
But
But
the
not the wife.
sister, she, you know, he can keep her from going to his meeting, but
But
she
she
don't
doesn't have that
necessarily be able to
option.
keep him from coming to hers.
Right. And who makes this stuff up? You know? Is
The
this in
watch
the is this biblical? Right. This is the Watchtower's doing. This is the Watchtower decided. Not even really just the Watchtower, but in that moment the elders decided. And I know this for sure because I was so stumbled by that. That was really what really started this whole thing, really, when they would not let my husband in. And I started to go down a rabbit hole of research just from there. And that was when my son was a baby. But it took longer, and then it took more and more research to get me to the point of being totally awake. But
Mhm.
going back to that, there was another brother in that same hall because, like I said, I was so stumbled by that. My mom told that other brother that was not in the meeting but still went to the hall, that other elder, and she told him, well, she was really upset because her husband, they wouldn't let her husband back. And he's like, well, why wouldn't he let her husband back?
Well, let me ask you a question. Where were you living at when you were going through the judicial? Were you still living in Colorado, or had you moved back to Florida?
I had moved back to Florida, so I was in Jacksonville, Florida. I did go to the hall in Colorado. I had met this girl named Malia, and I wish I could get in contact with her just to say, hey, it's a code, because she was so cool. She was going to school to become a teacher, and she was pioneering at the same time. So I remember having a conversation with her, like, how do go to school and you're trying to pioneer, and you know. She wanted to make something out of herself. So she's like, I got to pioneer while I'm trying to go to school just to make it look right, basically, is what I got from it. But anyway, that's a whole different story. But yeah, I was in Jacksonville. I was in Jacksonville.
So you've been through a lot because what they're doing is like emotional blackmail, fear, obligation, guilt. So you were
Hmm.
like fearful that if I don't turn myself in, I'm not going to make it into this new system because you're still
Right.
believing in that rhetoric. Then you're like obligated, and then you're guilty because you got to do it right. You're married
Hmm.
now, but I still got to uncover all this other stuff so that now
So
I could be like
humiliating
paving my way clear and clean, you know? And
to
then you
some
got these
men.
people in the
Like, what does it matter?
congregation that's doing all this crazy stuff like the CSA stuff, and brothers are doing, abusing these children.
Mhm.
They're not raked over the coals for none of that.
It's just so
Secretly.
unnecessary telling them
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
They are not God. They don't have any type of authority over anybody. They cannot read anybody's hearts. They can't judge anyone.
Mhm.
But they do. They do. And sadly, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the members give them that power, because, they're so indoctrinated. And we remember being that indoctrinated. That was what made me confess, as a grown married woman, thinking that I had to tell them something about my past. Like, who cares? You know?
I really hate the fact that you had to go through that, and then when you look back, it's like, "Oh my goodness, if I would have known what I know now, I would have never stepped foot in the
Never.
Kingdom Hall," because I think that the Jehovah's Witness leadership, they're in our lives too much, or they were in our lives too much, and it's very, very sad that people are just having so many emotional problems because they believe that it's the truth, to the point that they are pouring their hearts out and
Right.
telling people intimate details that they shouldn't even be discussing
Right.
with
And the fact
these
that they would
people.
even ask the intimate details, like that's just so disgusting and disturbing, you know. And
Did they do that to you?
oh yes, they definitely did that to me. They did that to me even as a 15-year-old child. When I first went to confess to them, 15 and 16 years old, they were, asking me very inappropriate questions, what type of underwear did I have on, and what positions, and all kind of just like, why does it matter? Like, why does it matter? All you need, if it's so that I need to confess to you, I should be able to just confess the sin, and I shouldn't have to give details. But I guess they feel like they need details so that they can decide, try to get a better idea of how they need to judge you, which is just crazy.
JT said on his first judicial meeting, he was a brand new elder on the body, and he said that the brother asked the sister, was she wearing panties or thongs?
Right?
And
They
then
asked
he
me that
said,
too.
and then he
They
said,
asked
they
me that
asked you
too.
the same thing,
They
because
asked
if
me
you
that.
were wearing thongs,
You
then that
intended to
that
do
meant
it. You had
intent.
intentions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Thought
crazy.
you wanted to look sexy. You was ready.
So you were planning to get involved because you had on a pair of thongs, right?
Right,
Oh my
right.
God, that is so crazy. So, so crazy. But I mean, so um, I know you're getting through all this and everything. What type of recommendations would you give to people today after going through your experience in dealing with the Watchtower judicial system, and even when it comes to disassociation? Would you recommend people to disassociate? Would you recommend people to go to the brothers, and confess sins? What's your recommendation after your experience?
I definitely wouldn't recommend going to confess anything, or if you do go confess, just, it doesn't have to be the truth. If you feel like you need to say something, maybe to please somebody else, maybe if you feel like you need to confess for that, you don't have to say what really happened, because they don't know. They aren't God. They don't have any way to know. And, I would just say stand in your truth. As far as disassociating, it's not for everybody. I disassociated because I felt like that was the best thing for me to do. I felt like it was the only way that my family was going to understand that I was not playing. That I really did believe that the Jehovah's Witnesses were a dangerous cult. And I felt like that was the only way to get them to understand that I was separating myself from that, and to get them to take me serious, because I feel like there was a lot of disrespect. There was a lot of downplay on my feelings and the things that I was learning. They kind of knocked it off as I'm just going through a phase. I'm just going crazy right now. I got mental issues and all of this stuff, and that's exactly what they spread when I first made my video. Um, Disassociating, again, is not for everybody. Do what's best for you, because sometimes a lot of people may need to fade. That may be the best thing for some people, to be able to still have some type of relationship with your loved ones that's still in, and then it gives you a little bit more room to try to plant those seeds if necessary as well. But I wanted them to take my name off of it. Take my name off. I didn't want to have anything to do with that. When I leave this earth one day, I don't want it to be said that I was a Jehovah's Witness at all. That's how strongly I felt about it. But I totally understand the people that decide not to go that route. And again, it's all about what's best for, that particular person and their circumstances.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying because, like you said, you wanted to sever those ties, and now you don't have to worry about trying to pretend. I
Hmm.
think that when people think you are just not going to meetings, now they're trying to give that invite. They're trying to, tell you, "Oh, just come to the memorial," or you can talk to them. But then when you go off script a little bit, they want to, let you know that you've gone too far. So you can't
Right.
keep saying what you want to say. So you got to constantly be walking on eggshells
Hmm.
when you're dealing with your Jehovah's Witness family members when you're
Right.
fading. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. You could just cut those ties, move on. People understand who you are, what you are, and where you don't want to be. You know.
Right.
Now, you had mentioned about going to college at some point. I think well, I don't know if it was before we started the camera on or not, but did you get your degree yet, or are you still working on it? And um, what is your how do you balance your life with your YouTube content?
Oh man. Well, first, I didn't finish getting my degree. I'm actually just like 3 credits away from getting my associate's degree. And I want to get my bachelor's degree. So I need to get back in school. It actually, I was going to college through because I started late because, I thought the world was, gonna be ending by the time I could make it to college. So before I could even decide that I wanted to go to college, I was already in my mid 20s, and there was this other thing where you had to do all these. You had to either have had a child, was married, or was in the military, or I had to use my parents' income. And my dad never wanted me to use his income, so I had to wait till later on to go to college. But um, I was going to college even through my pregnancies and with having my 3 young kids. But what really triggered me when I dropped out of college, it was when I put in that disassociation letter, and I thought I would be okay after that. But my one of my very close friends from like 6th grade, and a lot of her family, I mean, was actually Jehovah's Witness. So in recent years before she died, I could talk to her about the things that I was learning about the code, and she really was understanding and was shocked about what I was telling her because her grandma was Jehovah's Witness. Anyway, she died, um, and so that kind of just um, I don't know, kind of threw me off a little bit because it's like I was dealing with a lot. I'm married with these 3 young kids. I'm waking up from a cult, and now I've disassociated from a cult. So I've let my family know that I'm not playing. And now you have a choice. You can either follow your rules of your religion and not talk to me because I'm making it very clear I don't believe in that, or you can talk to me. Um, but all of that was very hard for me. So I haven't gotten back into school yet, unfortunately, but I do plan to. And what was the other question?
Just how are you managing your work life balance with your content creation and whether you're working a full-time job, part-time job, your children,
Yeah.
family, and all
Yeah,
that
I
kind of stuff?
I do work a full-time job. So it's actually really a struggle for me to make content as much as I want to. I want to be to the point where I'm making content almost every day, if not every day. I would love to do this as a job, exposing Watchtower, and even just talking about different other events that's happening. The Hawaii fires and all these fires that's going on, like the stuff that happened to Black people. Like you just different stuff that I would like to talk about, and do this all the time. But unfortunately, I do have a family. I do work a full-time job. So I have to squeeze in. I literally have to lose some sleep and some relaxation time to get my videos in. But it's worth it when I do. And, I just want everybody to know that eventually I want to get it as many out at a time as possible because I would just love to expose Watchtower until they're in the ground. Like I'll do it for the rest of my life because that's how passionate I am. about seeing as many people as possible leave that evil cult.
You do have a lot going on because you've got a full-time job, you've got 3 children. So, what were you going to school for?
Well, I was going to school to become a teacher. Yeah. But I don't wanna do
Awesome.
that anymore.
Oh,
That
no.
was before I had 3 kids, and so I wanted to teach elementary school, um, I don't wanna do that anymore because my 3 kids, they be kinda driving me crazy, so I don't wanna deal with other people kids all day, but I think that I am still a teacher, presenter, I wanna help people learn something new. So I think that's why I'm so in love with my channel, and I just want to continue to make more videos and yeah, build my audience because I love just helping people learn something new.
Yeah, I do. But Imma say this to you 'cause I sometimes I give, advice about college and stuff like that, and, I talk to people or I run into different people who are faced with situations and going to school, and so you start off with going to school for education. You said you were 3 credits from getting your associates, and that no doubt is that going towards general studies or
Mhm.
actually going through the teaching program?
General studies.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So my recommendation to you would be to go ahead and get those 3 credits out the way.
Yeah,
I don't know what it would be, but go ahead and finish that degree, that associate's. And then if I were you, I would check with, the university in the area and find out if they support a prior learning program where you can target up to 30 credits for prior learning, and that would accelerate your degree. Now I know that, I completed that here in, the DC area, and I was able to get I did a video where I talked about how I earned 36 credits in 1 semester. 30 of the credits was from the prior learning program,
Okay.
and
That's amazing.
you would write a portfolio about your, experience, and I think your YouTube channel would be very, very good for writing that portfolio. You know? So if you wanna chat offline, we could do that. I could, take a look at your credits, take a look at the degree you're trying to get or how you can go in that other direction so you can get that bachelor's degree, you
That'd be
know?
awesome. Yeah, I know. I know I really I really need to just do it, get back enrolled in school and just do it. And I say that I am, but I need to just really make it a priority and do it.
Absolutely, you
Yeah,
know?
I just want to say I think that even the time that I was in college, it played a role in my awakening too, because like we were talking about earlier in our conversation, critical thinking, and I just love that channel name for y'all. Because it's so important to think critically, and to use our critical thinking skills. And as Jehovah's Witnesses, we don't really use that a lot because we're spoon fed so much, even when we are going door to door don't didn't we have a whole script as an example of what we could say, and we just kind of tweaked it a little bit and put it in our own words, but we were spoon fed every single thing that we learned and that we were teaching to people. But it wasn't until I went to college and I had to do those discussion forums and they told you to think critically, like, wow, some of those discussion forums will really make you think critically and have to come up with this paragraph or two or three to, add to the discussion.
Absolutely. And also, when you were taking your classes, do you remember how they let us know that when we wrote our term papers, we had to cite
Hmm.
peer reviewed articles and,
Right,
like resources. So you
right.
could not go to Wikipedia and
Hmm.
use that as a source of your research.
Right. You had to do real research and have a whole page dedicated to your research, where you got your research from and everything like that. So, that just taught me more and more about how to research and Google stuff, not just Google, but, other sites as well. But yeah.
If someone is trying to manipulate you, the last thing that they're going to want you to do is get an education. They
Right.
don't want you to be competing with them when it comes to knowledge. And
Hmm.
so when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, I remember being out in field service and remembering a person trying to give me one of their pamphlets. And I remember being told by the watchtower that we don't read other people's literature. We can only read what's in the watchtower. We're not talking about Think and Grow Rich. We're talking about religious material, right? Like not
Right.
just not some regular standard book you can't read.
Right.
It's other church material from other church. So the reason why I feel like the watchtower doesn't want us reading other religious material or attending other church services is because we're going to go to these churches and we're going to see that the watchtower is no different than any other church. I get people telling me all the time when they hear me talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, and these are people who are not witnesses, never been a witness. They will tell me, I hear what you're saying on your channel, but did you know that other churches do the same thing that Jehovah's Witnesses do? And so the leadership knows that. So it's important for them to keep us in the dark so that we can't see that they're just the same as any other church. Because one of my business partners from years ago, we used to give networking events together. And there was this one lady who was part of our group, and we would invite her to our network events. And he said she can't come on Tuesday nights. He said because she belongs to a church and her pastor will get on them if they don't come to church on the night that we were doing our networking session. So if it was on any other night, she could go. But
Right.
when it came to that night that we had that one networking event, she could not go because she had to go to church. So he
Right.
so he was telling me a long time ago that Jehovah's Witnesses are no different than these other churches out here.
They're not the only ones who feel their meetings are important, you
Mhm.
know? So, yeah, I get that.
Right. So anyways, we're coming up on an hour. So do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, well, as far as raising my kids, I am very thankful, regardless of how hard it is sometimes to just not be able to call up my parents freely, and speak with them, because they're shunning me because of this religion, this cult. I am glad to not be raising my children in this. I'm glad to, be teaching them love unconditionally. There's nothing that my kids can do that would make me stop talking to them. I mean, I literally can't think of anything. They would have to be really. I can't even say anything. But you know, um, I'm glad that I get to celebrate with my kids. It's special to me, their birthdays, and I wake them up, traditionally with balloons, and I enjoy celebrating their birthdays. They enjoy celebrating birthdays. They enjoy the holidays, and I live through them and their joy, and just them being able to have different friends and not be confined to one group of people, all of those things that I couldn't have or do, the sports that they're able to be in. My son is in sports heavily, basketball, football, track. There was no time to do any of that as a Jehovah's Witness because, for one, that's too much time with worldly people. And you need to be spending that time on spiritual things. My girls are in gymnastics. I never did any of those things, so I'm just really glad to be able to show them something different, you know. But don't get me wrong, I did have, my parents, they thought they were doing the right thing. I I re- I took joy in going to the conventions and, getting dressed up for the conventions and stuff like that. And we even went on a bus tour to Canada. So those were my memories as a kid, the good ones, and even though now I know I was visiting a headquarters that's full of lies, at the time it was a good memory, with my family. But I'm just glad to be, making other memories, not just going out of town. We used to go to Orlando a lot as a kid too. Now I take my kids, because it's only a couple of hours away. I take them, and we have that tradition along with celebrating the holidays. So I'm just grateful that I have these things to make me happy, despite being shunned by the people that gave birth to me.
Yeah, you've gone through a lot, and how about your husband's family? Does he have a big family or not, or
Yeah, he has a pretty big family. I'm grateful for my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law. I have sister-in-laws and a couple of brother-in-laws too, and they're all great. We spend the holidays a lot, just about every, especially Christmas and Thanksgiving and stuff. We spend those holidays together, come together and cook and stuff like that. And my mother-in-law, she had a hand in helping me wake up too. I just remember her telling me, because I remember coming to her the first time when I met her, and she was ready for her new daughter-in-law to go to church with her. And I told her, I can't go to church, and she was very upset. But that's something that we look back on now and we laugh because she was able to plant a lot of seeds, because here I was with the little golden nugget, is what we used to call it. What does the Bible really teach? When I came to her house, and she wanted to take these pictures and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm trying to bring up these subjects to her out of this book, and she's like, "That's a man-made book right there. That's man-made this." And I'm like, when I think about it, it is man-made. It's
well,
not from God. The governing body is published by the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society. So all of those things just kind of planted seeds, and just reminded me, hey, at the end of the day, this is man-made. This is not from God. Like, these men are making this stuff up. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm just curious, like you said your husband was in the military, so when you guys first got married and he was still enlisted,
mhm.
did you guys travel to any other place besides Colorado?
We didn't move around. We stayed in Colorado. And you know what? I had my mom in my ear kind of telling me, that he needed to get out, you know, and I wanted him to get out because I really wasn't, even now, knowing that what I know about the organization, when I think of it, I wouldn't want him just always deploying and leaving me there with the kids and stuff like that. But it did at first, my encouragement of him to get out and be done with his time, it did have a lot to do with my beliefs as a Jehovah's Witness, and just thinking that that wasn't a good career if I ever wanted him to possibly become a Jehovah's Witness. That, I was just thinking like that wasn't a good career to have. So, but I'm just glad that he's out now anyway.
So you could not travel with him then?
Well, he was we did he was his orders were up. So he could have stayed in and we would have gotten stationed somewhere else. But because he didn't re-enlist, then we were able to we moved back to my hometown, to Jacksonville, Florida. I'm not gonna say it was a mistake, but yeah, it wasn't that sweet. I knew we wouldn't be able to stay with my parents long, and something transpired when we got there, and it really boils down to just because of the religion. It caused a conflict, with my husband and my cousin, and it was just a big mess. But that's a whole nother story. So,
When you were in Colorado, did you make any friends on base?
well, we live off of base, but it was just right down the street. So I did meet this one girl that was my neighbor, that she stayed in the same apartments as us, and her husband was in the military. And so I still keep in contact with her to this day. Um, and then I have another friend that was also living in Colorado. I keep in contact with her as well, because she started dating his friend that I met him with, that was dating my cousin at first. But yeah, me and her, we still talk. Well, of course, both of those girls I mentioned aren't Jehovah's Witnesses. But then I did have a little group of Jehovah's Witness friends that I don't keep in contact with. I lost contact with them. That I met there as well, that I would kind of go to the movies with or go out to eat with sometimes, because I was pregnant with my son, and I was trying to get back into it at the time. But I eventually started to wake up.
Well, that's excellent. So you got a chance to do some traveling and meet some different people, help some people get out of this religion because they saw you on YouTube and you're making a difference and you don't realize it, because even if people don't, leave a comment on your page or send you an email, a private email or something, you are definitely touching lives. And
Thank
I'm
you.
just glad that we got a chance to get to know each other offline and on a little chat group that we hang out with every week. And then also, coming out and hanging with me on Hidden Struggles. So I want to
Yes,
thank you so
this has
much,
been fun.
Felice, for being here. And I look forward to, collaborating again. in the future.
Yes, yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me. And I so appreciate you and your husband's work. Y'all have been so awesome with helping so many people, including myself. Y'all was one of the first channels that I stumbled across. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for y'all work and y'all continued work. Y'all are excellent.
Thank you so much, and you're welcome. All right, this has been Lady C, and we'll see you all on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to Hidden Struggles with your host, Lady C. This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers, online at hiddenstruggle.com. Feel free to send an email to info@hiddenstruggle.com, and we'll catch you next time on Hidden Struggles. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Critical Thinkers.